3 days ago, I wore a dress I bought on sale to a family reunion, and my sister Julie told me I looked exactly like what I was, a failure.
It was just another August afternoon at Aunt Carol's backyard, the air thick with the smell of barbecue smoke and the false saccharine scent of familial obligation.
For years I'd dreaded these reunions, not because I hated my family, but because I knew exactly what role I was expected to play. Andrea, the cautionary tale.
I should have known better than to go, but my husband David insisted, whispering that maybe this year it would be different. It never was. My mother, Eleanor, saw me first, standing by the lemonade dispenser.
She didn't hug me.
Instead, her eyes, sharp and judgmental, scanned my outfit, my hair, and landed on my shoes.
I felt myself shrink into the dress. Andrea, she sighed, a sound heavier than any word. You're 36. You still have that job at the library? The one where you spend all day filing dusty books?
I thought you were going to be a lawyer. That was the setup, the quiet, cold preamble to the inevitable public execution. My job as a children's librarian was my piece, my quiet rebellion against the corporate ladder my mother and sister had climbed.
They were both partners in a high-powered real estate firm. They drove leased Autos and spoke in acronyms. I drove a 10-year-old Civic and spoke in stories.
The real knife came out when Julie arrived.
She made a point of parking her new glistening black car right in front of the house, demanding everyone notice. Julie has always been the golden child, the one who didn't waste her time on silly dreams. She had the perfect husband, the perfect house, and an opinion on everything.
She walked straight past me to hug Mom, and then, only then, did she turn.
"Oh, there you are, Dre," she said, using the childhood nickname she knew I hated. She held up her wrist, flashing a new diamond bracelet. "Mum, you won't believe the meeting I had this morning. Closed the sterling deal 7 figures. How's the Dewey Decimal System treating you, Andrea?"
Still getting paper cuts? She didn't wait for an answer.
She just laughed, a sound like glass breaking.
David tried to step in, murmuring something about how much I loved my job in the community, but my mother cut him off with a dismissive wave.
We know she loves it, David. She loves that it's comfortable.
The problem is, comfortable doesn't pay for quality of life, does it?
Julie just bought a vacation home. Andrea still shares an apartment complex laundry room. The shame was a physical wave. I felt every relative's eyes on me, judging the softness of my career, the smallness of my life. This was the escalation, the slow, calculated torture that had defined my relationship with them for 2 decades.
They always worked as a unit, Mom, the moral authority, and Julie, the financial executioner. I wanted the earth to swallow me whole. I wanted to scream.
But I did what I always did. I swallowed the humiliation and muttered that I needed more lemonade. But that wasn't the worst part. As I walked toward the table, I heard Mum's voice drop, the way it always did when she was delivering a final, lethal blow.
I just don't know what we did wrong, Julie. We gave her every opportunity.
Maybe David should talk to her about being more ambitious.
Honestly, sometimes I think the best thing she could do for herself is move back in with us and leave that library. I stopped dead. I didn't owe her forgiveness, but I did owe myself dignity.
I was about to turn around and finally, tell them both exactly where they could stick their 7-figure deals and their Autos.
I was about to give them the dramatic exit they deserved.
But as I stood there frozen, 2 things happened almost simultaneously. A woman I didn't recognize, a sleek, confident woman in a tailor-made suit, approached the table where Mom and Julie were sitting.
She looked completely out of place at a backyard barbecue.
She carried an expensive leather briefcase.
And then Julie said 7 words that made my blood run cold. She was still ranting to my mother about my financial irresponsibility.
Honestly, she's so passive, I bet she'd let anyone take advantage of her money.
The woman in the suit stopped. She looked straight at Julie, and then she looked at me.
"Are you Andrea Hayes?" the woman asked, her voice low and utterly professional.
I nodded, confused.
"My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm the lead attorney representing the Hayes Trust. I was told I could find you here."
Julie and Mom instantly shut up. The shift in their demeanor was seismic.
They went from cruel conquerors to curious peasants. A trust? Hayes was my late father's last name. He had died 5 years ago. I thought everything had been settled. A trust? My mother asked, her voice suspiciously bright.
"Eleanor, that's my daughter. You can talk to us. We handle all the family finances. Andrea's. She's not good with money.
The attorney gave my mother a smile so cold it could shatter steel.
Mrs. Hayes, the terms of this trust are strictly confidential. I can only discuss them with Miss Andrea Hayes.
I apologize for the unusual venue, but I've been trying to reach you. We need your signature to finalize the transfer of assets.
Transfer of what? I asked, completely bewildered. The attorney opened her briefcase, pulling out a thick, legal-sized document.
Your father left you his entire estate. It includes the remaining shares of the biotech firm he co-founded before he left the company, along with the patents he personally developed. We've managed the portfolio for 5 years.
The minimum value of the liquidated assets alone, which are now being transferred into your personal account, is estimated at just under $94 million.
Silence. Complete, suffocating silence.
For a full minute, the only sound was the distant whine of Aunt Carol's cicadas and the dull thump of my own heart against my ribs.
I saw the color drain from my mother's face. She looked like she had just been slapped by a ghost.
Julie's mouth was slightly open, a tiny sliver of barbecued rib caught between her teeth.
94 million? Julie finally choked out, her voice a strange, high-pitched squeak.
The attorney Eleanor Vance smiled again, a genuine, warm smile this time.
That's the conservative estimate, ma'am. We found a buyer for the patents in Asia. We anticipate the final payout will be closer to the 100 million mark.
Your father was very proud of his work, Andrea.
He wanted to make sure you were comfortable enough to do whatever you loved without compromise.
He had known.
My quiet, brilliant father, who always hated how Mom and Julie treated me, had watched from a distance. He hadn't just left me money.
He had left me an entire kingdom, sealed away until the exact moment I needed it most, protecting me from the very people who would have tried to manage or, as Julie had just put it, take advantage of it.
My father's will was the climax.
The moment the power dynamics flipped so violently they could never be righted again.
My mother found her voice first, high and panicked. Wait, Eleanor. That's impossible.
I'm his wife. I signed the papers.
Everything was divided. It was Mrs. Hayes, the attorney replied calmly. But your husband established an irrevocable trust 5 years prior to his passing, specifically for his daughter Andrea.
The assets were held entirely outside the marital estate. He was very meticulous, and the terms were explicit. The trust was only to be finalized and transferred upon his daughter. Reaching the age of 35 and demonstrating a steady 5-year employment history.
He called it the comfort clause. He wanted to ensure his daughter had already found happiness, not just a fortune.
Julie looked at her mother, a terrifying mix of fury and betrayal hardening her features.
You knew he had that money? I thought it was tied up in those early stocks. I thought it was worthless now, Mom stammered, her composure utterly gone. Andrea, honey, why didn't you tell us? I'm so proud of you. We should celebrate. The transformation was repulsive. The woman who had just called me a financial failure was now calling me honey. The woman who had just judged my lack of ambition was demanding a celebration.
I finally spoke. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise of a family reunion like a razor. I didn't tell you, I said, looking straight at Julie.
Because, until 5 minutes ago, I didn't know myself. And thank God for that.
I looked at my mother. I love my job. I love my dusty books and my paper cuts. I was already happy.
This, I gestured to the lawyer and the documents. This just means I get to be happy on a beach instead of a library chair.
I don't need your approval, Mom. I never did. Then I looked at Julie. The look in her eyes was one of pure, agonizing loss.
She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the number, 94 million.
The money that could have solved all her business problems, the money that would have made her the true queen of the family, was now firmly in the hands of the failure. The aftershock was immediate. Julie stormed off, not wanting anyone to see the tears of pure greed and envy running down her face. My mother tried to pull me into a hug, but I stepped back, letting the attorney serve as my shield.
I signed the papers right there, on the trunk of the sleek black car that belonged to my very expensive lawyer, feeling the full weight of my father's quiet love. As Eleanor Vance packed up her briefcase, she handed me a card.
The fund manager will call you Monday, Ms. Hayes. You have quite the life ahead of you.
I watched my mother standing alone by the barbecue pit, suddenly shunned by the relatives who now knew she had lost everything. Not just the money, but the power she derived from judging me.
She thought she was the star of the family. Now she was the one no one wanted to talk to.
David, who had stood silently by me the whole time, put his arm around my shoulder.
What do you want to do now, library girl? He whispered.
I looked at my mother, her face etched with regret and a shame deeper than any I had ever felt.
Poetic justice, delivered by my own beloved ghost of a father.
I think, I said, my voice clear and certain, I need to go buy a beach, and maybe a new dress.
Not on sale. For the first time in years, I drove away from a family gathering, knowing that I didn't owe them an explanation, a success story, or even a second thought.
Some people break families with cruel words.
Others rebuild their daughters' lives with quiet, overwhelming love. And my father made sure I was finally, truly free.